I would like to see on our schedule, yeah. So we are on track or what? Okay, now we are at week berapa sekarang ni?
Week 4.
Yes, we are at week 4. Supposedly kalau kat sini kan we are actually finish the chapter 3 which is on the EIA and also ENP. But I think last time I already discussed on the EIA chapter. Just I think some few section I did not discuss, so today I will finish it. And then we need to discuss and start for chapter 4 on water quality until week 6, right? So I think we are okay because after week 6, then you are having a mid-semester break, and also when is your test? 11 May. After that, you are having your test at week 8, right after the semester break. So this is just a reminder to everyone so that you are already somewhere here, yeah. So for test will be covered on chapter 1 until chapter 4. So by the way, this week until week 6, we need to finish the chapter 4. Okay, yeah. Everything's okay? Ada keluar masuk ni? Okay, line. Okay, that's about our schedule of planning. So we need to continue for the chapter 3. Okay, so let's recap before we start our lecture for today. Boleh kita more on the discussion because this is basically theory. Kalau tidak, you all semua tidur ataupun petang kan because of the afternoon session. So stand or you are prone to what? Taking a nap kan? So to avoid that, you need to be with me and answer some of my question. Boleh? Okay, first of all, for this chapter, right, what we have discussed on, what does it mean by EIA? If there is no answer, then I will call your name. Yeah. Boleh? Kita ada seorang student foreigner, so I need to speak in English. No response? Saya selalu kena check saya punya ni sebab takut saya terkeluar daripada line. Kalau gitu saya tanya Adib Irfan. Adib Irfan. So what is the purpose of having a EIA report? Adib? Adib tak ada? Adib, 1, 2, 3.
Ya, ada.
So what is the purpose of EIA? Yang dia tahulah. Tengah apa? Google Saya rasa saya nak pakai. Okay, jawab. Okay. Okay kan sekarang? Okay, Adib.
To evaluating various project options.
Kenapa tak dengar suara? Ada cakap ke tidak ni? Okay, again.
To evaluating various project options.
To what?
Evaluating various
Evaluating
project options.
various project option. Okay, and then the purpose is for what je lah. Kita evaluate the various project for what purpose? Pan Kang Bau, betul ke saya sebut ni? Pan, what's the purpose of this make a EIA report?
Mainly it is used to show the environmental consequences of
Yes.
of certain project. Agak-agak macam ni lah.
Okay. To evaluate the impacts of the project to the environment, ya. Okay. Dan semua kena tahu because for the big project, ya, not semua actually fall into this needed to submit a report for EIA. When I said that because there's some requirement, yeah, needed, and then you must check. So if the big project mainly, so they need to submit a report, but they need to also check is either okay. Now we go to the types of EIA. Kita nak tanya lagi lah. So how many types of EIA in EIA report? Dewi? Dewi ada?
Ada doktor, sekejap ya.
Tengah tengok nota. So what is the objective of the EIA ya, tadi tu?
Tiga doktor.
Okay, the type of EIA apa dia? Now we go to here. How many types of EIA? Siapa boleh jawab? Anyone?
Two types.
Yeah, Chris?
Two types.
Two types, yes. Yang first apa, Devi? The first one? Anyone who wants to try?
First schedule dengan second schedule.
Yes, correct. First schedule dengan second schedule ya dekat sini, type of EIA. Right, thanks Chris. Okay, now we go to what's the difference between the first schedule and second schedule? Muayyad. Muayyad, are you there? Muayyad Mansur. Yang lain ada nak try?
First schedule does not need the public display or comment, but second schedule require the public display or comment.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that means first schedule they are more not really stringent based on the second schedule because you need to check this the list of prescribed activities, yeah. So your project is fall under which category? This is the important one, so that they will decide. Okay, you must go for the first schedule, or maybe for the big project you must go for the second schedule because the procedure is different. Okay, for the first schedule, everything, if you take a look, that means the covering area is much less than 500 hectares. Whilst for the second schedule, it must be more than 500 hectares. basically lah, right? But you need to check. But because some of the requirement they say, for example, here during education project, right? So it must be covered if the area is 500 hectares or more. So you need to go for first schedule, the first one. Faham? Okay. So these are the list for the first schedule project. Basically for the EIA apa namanya? EIA punya consultant, they must screen through. Okay, so the client's project is which fall under which category. So sebenarnya lah for very big project, mega project, it must go for the second schedule, whilst for the less, for example, the less than 500 hectares of covering land, so you must go for the first schedule. Faham Okay, also included is the industry project and so on, right? So this is before or after the, what we call that, the construction project, yeah?
Before.
Yes, correct, Chris. Yeah. Semua ni kena submit before the project commence. So that means you need to get the approval by the government agency, okay, state government or the persekutuan. Kalau if your project is on held or occurred in Sabah and Sarawak, you must get the approval from the Department of Environment of the state government, because Sabah and Sarawak they are different. The state government will approve the project. If in Semenanjung, they need to apply for the persekutuan, di Putrajaya macam tu. If for the very big project, especially for the second schedule. Okay, so this is the first schedule. All are listed the type of activities that required for EIA report. Okay, for the second schedule, oh, thank you. Wow, cuba ke? Okay. Second schedule, okay, this one. For example, the covering, right? You can see here 500 hectares. Besar, very big project ni. And then, for example, new peak farm area 2,000 or more standing peak population. Ini contoh lah. Okay, kalau drainage pun more. They are actually, for example, the second schedule, they are located at the very sensitive area, kan, near to state park, national park, national marine park. So in this one required second schedule, number 2. That means this one is more serious and more concern are needed to run this project. So that means the approving authorities will check more criteria for the second schedule before being approved. Okay. Any question about this part? We have discussed before last 2 weeks. Okay, these are the prescribed activities. Maksudnya list of activity lah of the project lah, right? So if you are maybe in future, sorry, saya tutup dulu WhatsApp ni. In future you are involved in any of this project, you must have the idea, okay, before the project. So the project must be approved by the government, approving authority, especially Department of Environment. Then you can proceed with the construction, right? Okay, so still under the prescribed activities. Okay, this one, alright. Okay, now we go for the EIA guidelines. So the EIA guidelines means they must provide the guidance to project proponents, qualified persons and other EIA related. Project proponents ni apa ya? What does it mean by project proponents? Anyone? Nak cuba? Muhammad Haziq Fahmi? Haziq Fahmi ada? Haziq Fahmi tak ada? Mukri Marzuki? Yeah, Bala, you want to answer the question or what?
Doctor,
Yes.
project proponents is just a
Yes.
guess, doctor. I think project proponents is the person that who are responsible for carrying out one given project.
Yes. That means the proposed project lah kan, the proposed project.
Yes, doctor.
They are the one who propose the project lah. So that means if you are a consultant, your client lah, right? Okay, project proponents saja saya nak tanya. So sometimes you have found a new terms, right? Qualified person and other EIA related practitioners in the preparation and submission of EIA report. So there are three main stages of the EIA report preparation guideline. Okay, pre-EIA report submission. Okay, before you submit your EIA, you must know how to make this preparation in terms of pre-EIA. Yang ni ada TOR ya. And then during the EIA report submission, and after that post, after the report submission, what you should do ya. So everything must following the guideline by the Department of Environment. So if you are failure to do so, then they are not processing the application. Okay, yang ni saya dah explain dah about the screening. Screening actually when the project proponent propose the project, so the qualified person means biasanya EIA consultant, they must do the screening to determine whether the proposed project is prescribed which category. Okay, adakah dia schedule 1 or schedule number 2, first schedule ataupun second schedule. So this one they must determine which one category, and then after that they must having this scoping. Scoping ni maksudnya what are the impacts or parameters that give effects to the environment. Yang ni dia kena identify. This project giving the impact to the water, air, soil or semua all the elements. Is it? So they need to do this identify the scope. Okay, scope ni it's like you identify which one is the very significant parameters or element of the environment that giving a very high risk to environment. Yeah. And then after that, after you preparing the scope, then you need to determine the TOR, terms of reference, okay, for the EIA. And then you need to also study the site stability assessment by using the proposed project location. So the location, is it suitable to do the project or no? Is it very near to the national park? Because that one is very sensitive area. So the area or location that they propose is under some issue or something like that. So they must the EIA consultant must check before they proceed. Okay, so baseline condition is to know identify the affected environment. Okay, the risk, and then they must also have the method for the investigation undertaken. Right, they must have some site visit, and then uncertainty encounter. So they must listed, and also the land use plan for the proposed project. Okay, and then they need to have this impact assessment methodology to identify the particular area study and rationale for the choice of methodology that they will discuss in the report. And then they must also know the quality control of the EIA report performed before it's submitted to the DOE. Yeah. Yang baseline condition ni, that means they need to go to the site and do some measurement. Yeah. If the project, for example, in one area having a river, for example, the river taking for the water supply, then they should conduct the water sampling, collect the sample, and then do the testing, and then they must make a report, because this is our baseline condition. same ya. Air quality, that means the EIA consultant must have the instruments, okay, to conduct and also to do the testing for the baseline study. Okay, what is the current situation of the environmental in that particular location of the proposed study. Okay, faham? Ni semua sebelum hantar report before you submit your EIA report. Okay, after that, then you can submit your EIA report. So for the first schedule report must submit to the DOE State area office, second schedule to the DOE headquarters. Except for the Sabah Sarawak. Sabah Sarawak still under Sabah Sarawak punya legislation ya. Okay, that one is the submission for the EIA, okay, report. After the report, okay, that they will evaluate, of course, they have a meeting. Some of the project they need to have the public participation, public review and so on. That one actually you can read through this EIA guideline, it's quite very detailed. So after the project being approved, okay, success, then you need to have this EMP. What does it mean by EMP? Environmental Monitoring Plan. Yeah. Okay, yang ini, that means whatever you have stated in the EIA report, okay, for example, you predict that there will be issues on the water quality. Okay, and then you must propose the mitigating measures. What does it mean by mitigating measures? This one ni. Ini ialah method to reduce the pollution. Kena bagi tahulah cadangan dia. What is the method, okay, to reduce to control the pollution. So this one must be actually highlight and must be stated in the EIA report. Yeah, this one. So P2M2 means pollution prevention and mitigating measures. This one. Ni maksudnya ialah pollution prevention and mitigating measures. Nampak? So ada 2P, 2P and 2Ms. Pollution prevention and mitigating measures. This one actually you need to do action. That means you need to keep monitoring. That means if you stated in the report that there will be impact to the water pollution. So every month you need to do the monitoring and put in the report. Okay, and then that means every month you need to collect sample, the water, and then do the testing and then submit the report to the project proponent, of course. Then depends lah if the project fall under, for example, JKR or JPS or only Department of Environment or MITI. So they need to submit the report for the monthly monitoring. So this one is more on this action. Action ya. Okay. Faham tak semua? Understand? So this one is more on the execution, action, more on action. So we have made everything ready. Your EIA report, you already submit. Okay, the DOE satisfied and they approve the project. And then after that, this one also need to, if that means the consultant must also put in the budget lah, estimated cost to be incurred in their execution action. If the project proponent ataupun your punya client is okay, you can proceed until the EMP, then you need to put the budget for the EMP project, because this one is run during the construction and after the construction. Yeah. maksud saya beri contoh lah Any questions so far? Jadi saya cari juga contoh-contoh. So this one is the examples of the EMP, right? So this one translate the pollution prevention and mitigation measures, the one that you propose in the EIA. So this one must be go to action after the approval lah. Okay. So this one must be institute and the structure will be built and so on. You must integrate the P2M2 project into the project activity, EMP. So the first, they must, the project proponent is your client and then consultant is EIA consultant, must prepare the EMP, study and understand the pollution prevention and mitigating measures as you recommend in the EIA report. Maksudnya, during the write-up of the EIA report, you have stated the pollution prevention measures and also the method on how you can minimize it, okay, until the DOE say, okay, they approve, they satisfied with your planning on mitigation. So they need to identify each of the component and do the execution action. Maksudnya kena ni lah, they need to collect data and then they do the testing. So of course this will incur in terms of cost, so make sure that this operation must be put in the budget to your project proponent, your client, if you are EIA consultant. So EAMP phase are included in the construction phase. During the construction, so you must, for example, having the environmental monitoring plan weekly or maybe monthly, depends on the type of the environmental aspect that you want to measure, right? So must be detailed out, okay? So you need to check lah the water quality, air quality, noise quality, noise pollution, soil, if there is any disturbance. It depends on the what you are actually stated in the EIA report. Okay. So during the operation phase also you need to arrange the effective implementation of the mitigating measure if there is any disturbance to the environment. And this one or during the operational phase, yeah. So that means the EIA report not only a report, and they must have the continuity in terms of EMP. So whatever you have stated and agree between the stated in the EIA report, so you must do the action during the operational and also the construction phase. Masa construction ni kena buat lah semua benda yang kata you highlight there is issue on the or effect to the environment, yeah. Okay, so this is the format of the EMP. So I will share with all of you about this website examples of the EMP project. Okay, for your extra readings online. Okay, any question about the EMP so far? This is about the EMP. I think when you go through and read the example, I think you are much more clearer then. Lebih faham. Okay. About this EMP. Okay. Nur Atikah Kamari. Nur Atikah ada?
Saya, Doktor.
What is the purpose of EMP for the EIA project?
Sekejap.
Okay. namanya. Yang ada nak cuba? Dah jumpa dah Atika?
Belum doktor, sekejap.
Baru keluarkan tadi.
Sorry doktor, tadi line internet saya tak stable, jadi saya keluar masuk.
Okay. Okay, saya tanya tu kan. Faham ke tidak ni dalam online?
Tool untuk implementation of mitigation and measure in identify in the IA.
Okay. Tools to implementation. So that means everything you stated in the EIA report, you must go and put in action. So sekarang ni kena buat lah during the construction phase. So that means there is a potential risk to the water and air, for example. So that means you need to provide a EMP data collection and sampling and put in the report for the EMP. So this is required by the EIA report. Okay, Atika. Okay, next is about the EIA guidance documents. You can see that the documents can be downloaded from this website, DOE, Department of Environment Malaysia. So other guidelines also can be referred to the other agency like this Ministry of the Housing and Local Government, KPKT. If your project is for the related to drainage, then you need to refer to the JPS and so on, or MASMA under the Department of Education and Drainage. Depends what type of your project is. Then you need to have the extra guideline from the agency of the ministry, and so on. This is the guidance document from the related document related project that you are fall into which ministry. Ada kelas? Okay, start. Ada kelas. Sekejap Terima kasih. Tolong kunci Alright, saya teruskan So dia kata kat sini, often where EIA report are submitted for non-prescribed activities. So boleh juga, ni lebih rajin ke apa ni mungkin the project are required by the certain agency or ministry kan, to have the voluntary EIA, right? So this one can be submitted as part of the CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility, or we call it as a voluntary EIA. Okay. So administrative EIA also due to the request by the government agency like a local authority. For example, the PBT, our bagi pemandaran required, then you need to have prepare the document. So this one, the process is will be processed as a first schedule EIA. They have the same review process and must adhere to all the DOE requirement. For example, sand mining, okay, quarry. So this one required to do the first schedule, and they call it it's either voluntary EIA or administrative EIA, requested, special request by the government agency. Okay. So we go to this process admin for the second schedule of EIA. So for the administrative procedure, you need to provide terms of reference. Because this one, you need to go through the detailed EIA procedure. So the project initiator must submit the TOR. Okay, first submit the TOR, lepas tu then they need to have this key aspect. I think they have the template. Okay, and then which big of your project is, and the significance to the environment, okay, of your proposed activity. So in here, 35 copies of the TOR must be submitted to the DOE HQ, accompanied by the cover letter and also the project initiators letterhead. So this is the contents of the terms of reference TOR for the second schedule, yeah. So list of consultants, semua kena dalam every details, the statement needed, the project description and need project option, and also the description of existing environment. Baseline and then project location, potentially significant impacts, mitigation and abatement measures, environmental impacts and EMP. Semua kena masukkan dalam TOR. So this is a TOR contents, outlines there. And then after that, you need to present to the review panel. DEIA ni ialah Detailed Environmental Impact Assessment. So the EIA team leader is expected to lead the presentation, usually the EIA consultant lah. And then the attendance by the members of the EIA team and project initiator at the meeting must be mandatory. So the project initiator must come, the project proponent tu. Then in here, the second schedule ni, 50 copies must be submitted to the DOE HQ. Must have the cover letter and sign. Alright. And then if DOE requests additional copies of the report, then they need to convey to the desk officer. 5 copies to be sent to the DOE HQ, then remaining 45 distributed by the project initiator. Okay. So for the advertisement, because the second schedule needs a project display, public display for their feedback. So they need to also put some budget for the advertisement, yeah. So they must announce in the newspaper and available for the public to comment. I'm not sure about Facebook. Okay, jadi dia kata cuma advertisement lah, so make it more formal, yeah. 2 newspaper for 3 days, English and also in Bahasa. So a copy of the advertisement might be sent to the DOE HQ for the approval prior to the placement in the newspaper. Okay, kalau project in Sabah and Sarawak, they must place in at least 1 regional newspaper as an additional, yeah. And reports for sale also required for the second schedule, available for the public to purchase, yeah. And then everything, the hard copy, they said equivalent to the printing cost, and then for the soft copy also they can sell for the 50 ringgit per CD. So this is a very high impact project to the community. So they must having this public participation ataupun public review to give the comments and feedback before they endorse to be by the Department of Environment. Okay, the soft copy for the executive summary must be submitted to the DOE HQ, and then the executive summary will be displayed on the DOE website from time of the submission schedule. And executive summary must also accompany with the project location and project flow for industry. So this is like an open display so that everyone can notice about this project that will be what we call the help, okay, in the future. So it's very important for us to know if it's very serious and giving a high impact to the environment, then the public actually must have awareness to give comment to make sure that okay, this project can proceed or not. So far, okay. Any question? Okay, this one is like a presentation. Presentation to present to the review panel. Review panel ni must having various people expert in that area. in-depth project. Okay, the team leader is expected to lead the presentation. Of course, it's like a Viva. Viva giving a presentation. If Viva tu ialah if you are doing a master or PhD, you are having this presentation that determine is either you are pass or no. Okay, so this is very serious presentation. So all members of the DIA are expected to present at the meeting, and project initiator must come. DOE secretariat must be informed, and presentation shall focus on the key issues. Yeah. Okay, then the comments from the publics must be respond, okay, from the project proponent and consultant. So response can be submitted together with the response to the queries raised by the dependent. So that means they need to have all of these feedbacks. They must collect all the feedback, and then they must respond to them. Okay. Okay, and then this one, time for approval, usually 3 months. 3 months from the date of submission, additional 2 weeks from the date of the review, and then failure, kalau if they are required some additional information, you must submit within 2 weeks. If no, then they will be, is either rejected or not process your application. Yeah. So the validity approval, okay, happy, dah approve, yay, okay. But it's actually only 2 years, valid for 2 years. Okay, if the project does not take off within the 2 years, then the approval is automatically void. So that means if the project is not being operated, okay, maybe some issues on the financial or certain issues, so they need to apply again after 2 years if the project is not executed. Okay. So it's the responsibility of the project initiator to request for the extension if they exceed the approval period, validity. Okay, faham? So make sure that actually after it granted, within 2 years they must proceed the project, do the construction. If not, then after 2 years they need to apply for the extension, or if not, then they need to apply again. The process, very tedious, kan? Okay, so they need actually check the approval in determine whether this one is by the DOE. They need to check whether the land use or environmental characteristic is remain same or unchanged. Okay, untuk dia approve the extension. So the project concept, is it the same? So the DOE will request a new EIA report if the changes is very high. Okay, so the project initiator need to bear the cost, right? Cost to be paid by the project initiator estimated of the DOE secretariat during the review process. Honorarium tu means for example, we are invited an expert to review the EIA project. Then the project initiator needs to pay 300 ringgit per person per meeting attended. And then if the review panel was not able to attend the meeting, tapi they give their comments, they also can give their honorarium fees 150. So all of these costs bear by the project initiator. Okay, so this is must be a very good project, high funding and high capital. So travelling expenses also need to cover first time visit to the site, and then also the advertisement for the 2 major newspaper for 3 days, and also the printing cost for submission. Okay, especially for the second schedule. Okay, this is the guideline for the first schedule. First, okay, the project initiator has the project proposal. Okay, for the proposed new construction. Okay, so in here they must determine and is either the project is fall into first schedule or what? If yes, then they need to submit the EIA to the DOE, 12 copies to the DOE, and also they need to review. And then if the report accepted, then okay. If not, then they need to have additional information must be given within 2 weeks. So this is the second schedule. So if the prescribed activity is subjected to the second schedule, so they must provide the TOR of the detailed assessment. So the TOR reviewed by the DOE and appointed panels. After the TOR endorsed by the DOE, then they can submit the final TOR. Then they can prepare and submit the second schedule EIA to the DOE HQ. How many? 45 kan tadi? 45 to 50. And then they must have the public display. They must get all the comments from the public. And then they must also make the response. So finally, if the report accepted, okay, that's good. If not, then they need to have maybe additional information. They need to submit within 2 weeks from the date of the meeting. And then they will evaluate whether the report is rejected or approved. Okay, so this is for the second schedule. Number 2. Alright, so this is the sample of advertisement for second schedule EIA. Example, in the newspaper, for example, here detailed environmental impact assessment for the proposed island reclamation at Palm Springs resort in Port Dickson. Okay, and then this is the estimated cost for the TOR, and this project lah in Cameron Highland for the municipal solid waste thermal treatment plant in Cameron Highland, Pahang. Around 45,000 ringgit, 45 to 30. So that means the project initiator needs to cover the cost honorarium for the panels and meetings, and then to get the report from the panels, TOR, EIA and so on, even for the transportation, makan, and then site visit, right, and then advertisement and also this printing cost. Okay. Okay, then now again for the EMP. EMP means pollution prevention and mitigation measures. This one is must put in action. So this one, EMP for the prescribed activity fall under first or second schedule. So the EIA consultant also must needed to do after the EIA report approved, then you need to go for EMP. Okay, so these are the principles of the EMP. We want to everything must be in order. The one that you said okay have high impact to the environment, then you need to check every month, okay, by using the EMP plan. Then you need to submit also a monitoring report. So in preparing the EMP, there are 5 components: introduction, policy, okay, organization structure, training, and environmental requirement. So here is the 5 important components in preparing the EMP. Okay, you can read this. And then this is the key to prepare the EMP for the proposed project. So in here, I think this is very important. You must take into consideration on the water pollution control, air pollution and noise control, material and waste management, schedule waste. This one is more on this hazardous waste. Okay, must have the emergency response plan and abandonment and closure plan and declaration and checklist. So this is for the EMP. Okay, and then these are the few examples of the DOE approved plan to construct the, for example, in Linas, at Gebeng, Kuantan. I think this one is a very long project, because this, if you can remember, this project is very controversial, right, due to the possible negative health Linas ni ialah projek berkaitan dengan apa ya? Radioaktif kan? Okay. Dekat Kuantan, siapa orang Kuantan? Masih ada lagi Linas ni? Masih ada lagi ke masih, siapa orang Kuantan sini? Aku tak mengaku Kuantan ya? Okay, so this is the disposal facility at the Gebeng Industrial Project in Linas, and this is a bauxite mining project also in Kuantan. So the DOE rejected the EIA report by the Pahang government for bauxite mining project because they confirm that from the EIA report that does not fulfill the requirement under the EQA, right? So ada kekurangan dia, they are not taken off to prevent or provide the measures for the impact to the environment. So this one rejected. And then this one project at Quarry in Penang, right? The failure of submission for the EMP here for the housing activity within 6 months has been issued. They didn't submit the EMP report, so complaints from the nearby residents and the investigation. So the developers they carry out the quarry activity even though the approval activities are expired. So for this offence, they are fined up to 500,000 ringgit, and they can also be imprisoned. This one in Wayang Lepas. And then this one is a project in Penang approved by the DOE, project on the fish fork of the EIA of Penang South Island Reclamation Project. This one they are having the objection, but the state need to apply for a fresh approval for the project EIA if they decide to continue the project, something like that. And then this one more on the Linas waste residual project, right? To store is a neutralized underflow residue. So in here they are having the capping because some of these rare earth oxide and some apa namanya some residue yang bunyi ni. Advanced material plant in Gebeng, they might give a very serious effect to the environment. But they are provide with these some mitigation measures within the acceptable levels. Okay, this one, some issues on the also in Penang about how they granted the conditional approval for the EIA report at the Pen Island Link 1, okay, for the transportation, and also in here upgrading the EIA system in Sabah, right? And then you can see this is a few examples on how the EIA regulation and also the monitoring has been taken. Okay. They confirm there was breach of EIA regulation. Ada breach kat sini because of the 5 rivers have been affected by the logging with waters turning murky and a yellowish color. So they are got fined 500,000 ringgit and also can be imprisoned for 5 years. Okay, and then some reports also stating that many of the EIA are failing to stop the environmental issues. Okay, and then that's all. Yeah. Okay, that one is for the EIA and also EMP. Any question? Yes, of course. They are not asking us to conserve, but this is for our next generation. Untuk anak cucu kita akan datang. That's why we need to preserve our nature. So this is very important for us to live in a good and healthy environment so that we can also healthy and do our activities. Any other question for chapter 3, EIA and also EMP? Ada ya? Mau faham ya? So you need to, after this you need to read and go through and try to understand ya. Macam saya katakan kan, how you can having a good memory during your study is after you done your lecture, then please go through, do some revision. Because during this time you are still fresh, you can remember some of the points or discussion during the lecture. Okay, tak ada soalan
Tak ada, Doktor.
Tak ada. Semua faham ya? Okay, kalau tak ada soalan, saya continue for the chapter 4 on the water quality. So this is a very interesting topic because how many water do we need to drink every day? Satu hari berapa, kecuali bulan puasa lah, I know, because we are fasting. Okay, kalau tak puasa, then in one day how much water you needed? Lapan liters. 8 liters? 8 botol air tu? Are you sure?
1.5 liter.
Yes. 2 liters. Lagi?
2.
2 liters. Macam jawapan tadi ni. Berapa gelas?
7.
7 gelas. 8 gelas. Tadi dah kata 8 liter. Aduh 8 liter. Bahaya juga if we drink too much. So actually to calculate how much volume, how much volume you need to take in one day, you must calculate based on your BMI. So based on your BMI tu, you can have, for example, 1 liter or 2 liter or maybe less, depends. Because everybody has their own capacity on how much they need to drink water. Okay. Okay, how about our water quality in Malaysia? So, do you satisfied? Everything okay?
No, not okay.
Why not okay? Hari-hari we drink our water.
Because people keep dumping their rubbish on the longkang, on the sewage system there, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, I heard a report saying that people that want in charge the water treatment there, they said even Malaysian people throw their baby pampers inside there, and then it makes the treatment system person in charge very hard lah. They need to get those very big object. That's why not very clean lah. Yeah.
Not very clean. But actually we do have the water treatment process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. But
still, if we can actually take care of our river, then we are much more assured that the water is clean, right? Even though that we have the water treatment plant process and treat the water. Okay. Because one of the thing is beside the water is for water, potable water. Beside that is more on the aesthetic, right? Aesthetic value, more on the tourism, right? If our environment is clean, then we feel very pleasure, and then we feel like Okay, this is our nature that people taking care, so everyone's appreciate, right? So we are happy, and then we are have the more happiness index in terms of having our drinking water, right? Good point, Chi. Okay, before I proceed this one, I would like to discuss, because tomorrow I'm having actually course, so let me discuss with you first. This is the reality of the water in Malaysia, yeah. So this is beside the notes given in the chapter 4. What that does it mean? What can you see from this photo? Tilaka.
Yes, Doctor.
Hmm.
We never save the rainwater.
We never feed our rainwater.
Never save.
Okay. The rest, pernah cuba?
They waste a lot of water.
Sorry, Moyet?
They waste a lot of water.
Yes, we waste a lot of water. That's correct. That's the terms, yeah?
Yeah.
We are actually very blessed because we receive very much rainfall compared to other countries, 2,400 millimeter. Okay, in Peninsula of Malaysia, we receive 5,000 something of the annual rainfall, very much. Okay, compared to the maybe some Middle East or African countries, they are very dry. They don't have much water. But us, but still, why all this happens?
Yes, in our country we don't have a lot of rain like Malaysia, but we try to save the water by doing dams and do like something to keep the water inside in our environment.
Yes, that's why we need to always remind, okay, everyone in our family members, do not waste our water, do not pollute our water, even though that our water bill is very cheap. I know it's very cheap in Malaysia, but we need to appreciate water because it's not sustained, it's not forever. Who knows, in future we need to struggle or maybe have what we call that, some fighting over water. Okay, so this is the reality. That means we have abundance of the rainfall, but still in certain part of the state, we are facing the water cut. Okay, for example, in Australia during my PhD time, that the state of the Western Australia, they don't have much water. It's only 300 mm. I think I already mentioned to you, yeah. It's very dry. It's like a what we call it, Mediterranean weather, yeah. So dry. They have 4 seasons, okay, but they don't have much rainfall during the winter. Okay, but I don't face any water shortage during my 3.5 years in Australia. Never. I never facing water cut. So the water is still running. Very good, yeah. So my point is, hilang dulu. So I think we have suffered actually both deficits and both excesses and also deficit because of we need to have a look on our management, right? Because we are seemingly have the very abundant water resource, but the rapid development without the proper planning has caused on this. Okay, this is our Kuito. Kuito previously, I mean this is UTHM, previously known as the College University Technology Technology of Malaysia. Yeah, I don't know whether you are noticed or not. Kamu tahu tak? This is our university back in 2008. Sorry, 2008 or 66. We have a very high flood during this time. Flooding, I remember last time we are having this, we need to save our lab, what we call that, lab equipments by using the sampan. and boat. Okay. So one of the concern is during this water rationing, for example, is the senior citizen. Okay, so this shouldn't be happen in the water abundant country like in Malaysia. But still happen because you can see here in February this year, we are having this flash flood in Penang. Okay, due to what? Because of this, the bypass road caused by the clogged stopper drain full with the leaves and rubbish following the heavy rain. So it can cause this flash flood here in Bukit Kukus bypass road. Yeah. So you can see this clogged scrapper drains, no maintenance. And then, alright, in KL we have this flood because they have the unusual heavy rains over 2 hours. And then due to this lack of the natural buffer zones, because everything concrete, okay. And then downpour caused the water to flow very fast and making this very sudden scenario in Klang Valley.
Doctor, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This one is not related to the flood lah, but I want to ask, why is Selangor maybe at the area of
KL.
like a thing, right? Like why they always happen like landslide, something like that?
Landslide. Oh, I think
Is it because of too much rain or is it because of the soil memang tak betul-betul kuat ke macam?
I think both. I think both because the development is too active, right? Too much, and then the soil cannot hold. The capacity of this building, and then yes, of course, because of the rainfall, one of the thing. But I think the planner or the town planning must actually give advice on how these things should be done. Okay, this area, they have this residential area, and then they have this geotechnical issue and so on, so that they are aware, right? Okay, I hope that this can answer you, Chief.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then this is in Terengganu in February, right? Last 2 months. I think this one because of this natural tempat. Usually the issue because of monsoon, right? Monsoon usually on November, December, but this one February still having this very high rainfall, downpour that can cause flooding. Yeah. Alright. Okay, and this is from the man-made activity where the factory, food processing factory discharge the effluent into the drain. Okay. Ni salah satu benda yang tak sepatutnya lah. Sepatutnya benda ni kita boleh elakkan kalau kita ada high awareness and also our big responsibility. And this is caused by the margarine spill from the factory in Kajang. Okay, you can see here incident because of the non-utilized margarine storage lead to the oil residue in the river system. Macam mana ni? Because what we give is what we get back. It means what we pollute the water is being used by the public, by us, right? And then this one, because of the order, okay, this one actually the factory recycling or process they use oil, okay, which is the good thing, but they fail to store the scheduled waste and then like the open space and the oil residue they release it to the drainage system. Dia masuk dalam parit. Aduhai, benda yang baik lah kan, recycling the use oil, but finally dia punya management of the scheduled waste is not proper. Then the factory will issue lah with the fine under this regulation, scheduled waste. Okay, so that's mukadimahnya. for me, we want to share our recent issues on the water so that we can know in this chapter, okay, what is the testing that are required to know the levels or the quality to identify whether the water is good or vice versa. Okay. So for this chapter, I will discuss on the water quality, right? And then we have this standard on the National Water Quality Standard (NWQS) and physical parameters, chemical, microbiological, and river monitoring tool, and also water sampling. Okay. So as we know that water quality is very important for us because without water we cannot survive. Okay. For drink, right? We need, as a human being, we need to drink, and for the municipal use, agricultural use, so that we can get the food, industrial use, okay, so that all of these are necessities. And rural use, for example, for the irrigation and drainage. So there are lots of these water resources, as we know. In Malaysia, from where we get our water supply? What is our main water resource? Malaysia pakai apa? Zulfairi Zarif. Zulfairi Zarif ada? Dalam Malaysia, we use which water as our main water supply? Yuzaimi? Yuzaimi bin Jeffrey Zulkifli?
Ya, saya doktor.
So in Malaysia, what is our main water resource? Yes, Muayyad. Rain.
Yes.
Okay. The rest? Oh, sorry. Nur Aini said, Nur Auni, An-Nabihah said river, Tilaka said river. Okay. Actually, from the river, yeah. Rain, actually, we do have some reservoir to capture our rain. Okay. And then the rain we capture to go to the empangan dam to store the water. But mainly our water comes from the river. Yeah. This one rain is just to collect the river and we store as a reservoir or dam. Okay. Groundwater, some part of Kelantan, I think, they process the groundwater for their main water supply. During my time in Australia, I believe that they use mostly from groundwater because the water is, I can sense the minerals is quite intense, so which is good. Again, the water, I think same with the other country like UK and also US, developed countries, we can just using directly from the tap. No need to boil the water. In Malaysia, we use river, but we need to process it. We need to treat the water. But before we consume, we must boil the water. Betul tak? Unless you install the water purifier. Macam Kowe, Kuku, right? That's very famous in Malaysia to install. Okay, to make to double purify the water. Semua ada kan? Kuku, Kowe, semua rumah ada kan? Saya boleh kata taklah semua rumah. Most of the house they install this one, water purifier. Untuk lebih bersih lagi lah.
Ada.
Cik pakai apa Cik? Engkai?
Tak tahu lah, nenek saya beli dari salesman hari tu. Dia cakap sudah lama sudah pakai. Dari Amway punya, rasanya Huawei kot.
Amway okay, Amway. Good brand lah. Mahal Ada yang bayar bulan-bulan, ada yang boleh bayar ni. And then not only that lah, we need to pay for the maintenance lah. Macam saya ambil Huawei dah lama, berapa tahun dah. Pun kita ada bayar lah untuk dia punya regular cleaning Okay. And then desalination also, kalau kat Malaysia we don't have that. In Singapore yes, because they don't have much water. They get the water from the sea and then do the desalination. This is using the RO system, RO membrane, very expensive process. I think the highest users for the desalination is the UAE, Saudi. Okay, they use the desalination process for their to get the fresh water. Okay, of course, we must make sure that the water is clean so that it can be suitable for the human consumption and for all the domestic purpose. And then in order for us to make sure that the water is suitable, then we need to control the discharge of the pollutants so that the water quality is not degraded, and must be complied with the standard. Okay, so in here we have lots because Malaysia use the water from the river. So you can see there are lots of the activities along the river bank that can give effects in terms of the chemical, biological and microbiological. Kan tepi sungai kan ada banyak aktiviti, ada factory, ada resident, ada pasar, ada commercial punya building, sekolah. So if you are not actually treat the water properly, then everything discharge into the river. The river at the end is the river, we are extracting the river water for process it for water drinking. For the potable, not drinking lah. Drinking kita kena boil first, right? So this one, there are two types of the water pollution, right? Can someone help me to explain the difference between the point source and non-point source in here? Volunteer first, sebelum saya panggil siapa-siapa. Volunteer? The difference between these two types of water pollution. No volunteer. GIU. Ada?
Yes, Doctor.
How to differentiate this one? Point source dengan non-point source, what's the difference?
The difference of point source and non-point source is point source it is easy to identify and the non-point source is harder to identify and also address.
Yes, this one quite easy to identify because you can see the pipelines kan. So you can see the discharge here, okay? Confirm point source. Alright, that's good. Another one? The non-point source, anyone who wants to explain non-point source? Nuradila binti Lili.
Ya, Doktor.
Non-point source pula.
Kalau point source from a single and identifiable source. Kalau non-point source by rainfalling a large watershed.
Maksudnya? Tak dengar?
Tak dengar suara saya guys?
Dengar. Maksudnya apa tadi?
Okay. Kalau point source
Pollution following from a single and identifiable source
Okay.
such as
Non-point source?
Collected by rain falling over a large watershed.
Okay, maksudnya apa? Paling mudah.
Kalau point source ni lagi kot, lagi kecil, kalau non-point source ni lagi besar dia punya ni.
Okay, non-point source means from the runoff. Runoff. We cannot identify from which source of this non-point source. Very difficult to identify because we didn't know. Okay, is it from the cropland, from the agriculture, is it from the suburban? So it can be anywhere. A lot of point source easy. Okay, identify very easy because you can see clearly. Okay, from this discharge, then you can see okay point source. But non-point source. Also for the testing, we need to check, okay, and go to the lab and test for the chemical characteristic. Identify, okay, for example, if the ammonia is very high, so could be from this source, cropland. Also, because ammonia and also nitrogen may come from the suburban development because of the discharge of the wastewater. So there are many possibilities, especially for the non-point source. So it's very difficult. Unless you must identify for very much point of the sampling and then do the very extensive and comprehensive testing for parameter, toxicology and testing, then you can see possibility may come from, for example, from the city streets because of the high heavy metals. Okay. Okay, so right, this one a point source. You can see examples of the discharge, right? And this one for the non-point source mainly from the agricultural side, right? From the farming and activities, from the fertilizers runoff. Okay, in UTHM, okay, we have this lake, and so we didn't know which source of the pollution. It might be come from the kebun kelapa sawit or palm plantation ke, from the road, okay, from the discharge maybe from the what we call that cafe. So that one is fall into the non-point source pollution. Okay, and also we have this construction and mining. Right, and okay, how to identify our water is clean or vice versa? So we must check. Okay, so under the National Water Quality Standards, they have classification, classification. So this one the classification, we need to check all these parameters. For example, ammonium nitrogen, BOD, COD, this oxygen, pH, color, and everything. Until the bacteria, fecal, and also total coliform. Okay, then we need to calculate based on the classes. So what does it mean by class 1, 2A, 2B, 3, 4, and 5? So here it is. You can take 6 parameters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters, and test, and then you can do the WQI, Water Quality Index calculation, and then you must check is either the classes is fall under class 1, 2A, 2B, or 3, or 4, or 5. Because in order for the river to be able to use as a water supply, it must fall under class 1 is difficult, nak capai. 2A okay, 2B okay, 3, nanti 3. 4 and 5 no. Very polluted. Sampai sini je lah. Even for the class number 3, extensive treatment required. Maknanya dia dah hampir highly polluted jugalah. Okay. So far ada soalan. Nanya yang ni ada pengiraan ni untuk WQI. Nanti saya akan terangkan. Water Quality Index and how you can calculate. About this one, actually you can go to the lab and then check lah. Dia punya based on the concentration. If the concentration, for example, less than 0, the result contohnya ammonia 0.2 mg per liter. So tengoklah 0.2 ni kat mana. Contoh kat sini kan. So maknanya dia class 2. Class 2 okay, we can use for water supply. When I said it can be used for water supply means the water can be pumped into the water treatment plant and then do the treatment. After treatment can supply to the consumer. Get it? Okay. So every classification here, I will explain lah what does it mean by VOD, COD, and so on. Have you heard before? Pernah dengar tak sebelum ni? Ke first time? Dengar apa?
Pernah dengar.
Pernah dengar, okay, that's good. Alright.
Pernah. Ni dalam lab kan?
Macam pernah Doktor. Dah pernah buat lab belum Ridwan? Okay. So calculation dia ada ke? Sekejap, tak ada lagi. Tapi sebenarnya boleh kira ada pengiraan dia. If you want to take all of these 6 parameter and check for the WQI, this is WQI, you at the end you need to have this value. So the value means, for example, this classification class number 3, kalau 4 is suitable only for the irrigation, class number 5 is very polluted, cannot be used. So if you want to use the river water for water supply, it must be within this range. Macam ni. Yeah. Maknanya kalau untuk water supply, yang ni sesuai, ni sesuai, ni sesuai, ni sesuai. Ini tak okey. Okay, let's go to this water quality parameters. So we identify the water quality parameter based on these 3 parameters, physical, chemical and biological. Okay, physical tahu kan? Something that we can sense, sight, nampak, touch, you can taste or smell. Ni bulan puasa tak boleh lah taste kan? Smell okay lagi. So basically air tu lah. Then you can saw some particle, kekeruhan ke kan, some solid dalam air. That's we call it as a solid in the water. Okay, solid. Then we have these 2 types. One is the suspended yang terampai, and what is the filterable, right? Yang suspended solid easy, you can just remove. But filterable solid you need to check what's inside. Okay, in terms of chemical, usually for the filterable solid ni yang dah jernih, we check for certain concentration and depends on the request to know further what's inside. Yang suspended ni, that means in the filter paper, in the filter paper here, this is filter paper, then you have this suspended solid when you filter the water. This one easy, you can just filter and remove. Filterable means the water after this one, after you filter, then this is the filterable solid. We call it as a dissolved solid, dia dah jadi air, dissolve. Okay, bayangkan if you can imagine, if you want to make a coffee, right? Tengah hari petang ni coffee pula. Alright, coffee means you have this what we call the grind coffee, right? Put in the water, hot water, and then you put some sugar, and then you mix, right? You mix. If you want to drink, it's very inconvenient for you to drink straight away, right? So that means you need to remove the suspended solid and dia punya grind coffee, right? You want to remove first so that you can easily consume. So in here, that means you need to filter the water. Bila you filter the water, the coffee, so the grain or the grinded coffee is here, kan? Jadi suspended lah. The one that become the coffee already mixed or dissolved, this one dissolve. Dissolve. Dissolve solid. Okay, yang ini yang you need to identify what inside, because it's become dissolved. So you need to have some testing lah to check whether what's in heavy metals ke some chemical inside of the water. Okay, faham tak? Yang ni dah settle yang sebelah ni. Yes, you can just remove. So these are the classification because like I said, the dissolved solid may have this calcium, chloride, nitrate and so on, which can pass through these 2 micron filter. Jadi sebagai analogi, your coffee ataupun teh pun boleh juga. Okay dah. Okay, sekejap ya. Adjust sekejap. Okay. Sekejap lagi nak balik dah Sekejap. And then ada soalan tak setakat ni? For solid, saya teruskan sikit lagi yang anda boleh baca. Turbidity kekeruhan ya. Your cloudiness of your water. Okay, the color depends on the color. Okay, high turbidity means they are cloudy sikit and the color is opaque. Okay, high turbidity can cause the increased water temperature and also the decrease of DO. DO means what? DO? DO tu apa? Normaghfirah binti Zulkifli.
Ya saya.
DO tu apa maksudnya?
Sekejap. Dissolved oxygen.
Yes, dissolved oxygen ya. That's correct. Maksudnya kandungan oksigen dalam air. So kalau decrease, bagus ke tak bagus? Kalau kurang dissolved oxygen, okey ke tak okey? Nurul Fatimah? Tak okey jawapan dia. Okay, so these are the reasons why the suspended particle will absorb more heat. That's why it can increase the temperature, and also it prevent the sunlight from this photosynthesis. So less oxygen produced by the plant. Yeah. Okay, so this is the temperature impacts on the rate of the metabolisms. If you are having the water temperature 0 degree, kan? Like in the North Pole ataupun Iceland, negara-negara sejuk tu, the DO is very high. Okay, so you can see that they can having this salmon, right? Kan? Very big. Whilst in our country like in Malaysia, we are having the temperature like 20 degrees Celsius, DO about 9.1, slightly decrease ya. Alright, ini dia baca sendiri. Okay, now we go for the chemical parameters. Chemical parameter, we focus on the pH. We will learn on the what does it mean by hardness. This is mainly for the water with high ionic content. Okay, like the calcium and magnesium, alkalinity, the pH buffer, and then nitrogen and phosphorus, mainly from the components like highly ammoniacal nitrogens very high, okay, from for example from the landfill, from the sewage and so on, and then BOD and COD. So what does it mean for every of these parameters for chemical? Okay, first is pH. That's why everyone's noticed and familiar with the pH, right? What does it mean by pH? It's a measurement of the concentration of hydrogen ions. So they will measure on the hydrogen ion. Okay, usually in the moles per liter, right? Yeah, moles per liter means depends on the molecular weight of the compound. I think everyone knows about this one. So we need to keep maintaining our water in terms of pH so that we can use suitable for consumption. It must be in neutral phase. 6 hingga 8 lebih kurang lah. 6 hingga 8. Yang ni okay. So even for the water treatment plant in the Logi, they always need to check the pH because this is indication of the pollution pH kita. Okay. Untuk cuci muka, berapa pH sesuai? For facial, kan ada iklan saya tengok
7 lah.
Yo. Ya ke 7? 5.5 kan? Saya nampak ada Johnson & Johnson. They sell the, what we call it, the facial cleanser 5.5. Suitable for the face punya. Okay. So kalau untuk water supply consumption must be neutral ya. Okay. So as we know that below than 7 is quite acidic and after 7 to 14 is base, alkali. Okay, how to calculate the chemical parameter? We know that hydrogen ion, for example, we have pH 10 yeah. So how we can calculate the concentration? This is the, what we call this? The formula to calculate the pH. Okay, log, you anti-logkan dia so you can get, but this is in mole per liter. Susah nak kira. You need to convert to milligram per liter. Kalau dalam lab mesti kita akan kira milligram per liter, senang. So how to convert? Then in here, still on the log H plus blah blah, you can anti-log mole per liter, mole per liter. But you need to, okay, mole per liter, okay, you can just using this equation. But to convert to milligram per liter, how? So in here, you must know this one. Alamak, kenapa jumpa lagi kan? What is this? Tengah masak ke apa ni? Buku 3.
Periodic table.
Yes, periodic table. Ya, Jaswin. Rindu kan? So you need to have this one so that you should know this atomic weight. Atomic weight yang atas ke yang bawah? Ni kita ambil yang mana? Yang atas lah kan? Bukan yang bawah. Atomic weight Okay, you must know the atomic weight of the compound. Contoh kalau ni H plus, I think everyone knows dia punya atomic weight ialah 1. Okay, kalau hydroxide atomic weight dia ialah 17. Macam mana boleh dapat 17? Why it becomes 17? Saya masih ingat.
Sebab oksigen bawa 7.
Oksigen bawa 7? OH. Oksigen berapa? Dia punya
2. Oksigen 2. Hidrogen 1.
Hidrogen 1. Oksigen
2. Balik doktor. Hidrogen 2. Hidrogen 1.
Hidrogen 1, oksigen. Saya tanya ni atomic weight atomic weight tu kena diikutkan periodic table. Cuba Ridwan tengok dekat sini. Cari oksigen.
16.
Ya, 16. Ni yang saya bagi ni sikit je dekat civil engineering student. Tak banyak, sikit je. Tapi yang di sini lah. Okay, so 16. Dekat sini gram per mol sebab ini ialah daripada periodic table. So berapa? 17 ya. So that's why in here you got 17 gram per mol. Okay, faham? Ni baru warm up ni, warm up. Sebab dalam lab kita tak guna mol per liter. Kita kena refer selalu kepada miligram per liter ni. Ini, miligram per liter. Maknanya dalam 1 liter berapa miligram? Okay. So, tadi kan dapat mol per liter, then you convert je lah. So, ini hidrogen kan, hidrogen. Ini adalah conversion, ini adalah untuk OH. Ini tadi, ini adalah conversion. So, you can get this value. Sebenarnya saya ada sediakan tutorialnya so that everyone can try. Jadi saya akan ajar lah kalau ada equation, so you must do the tutorial. Okay, so far okay, faham? Okay, up until here. So we go to this next, hardness. Boleh lagi? Sekejap lagi saya akan tamatkan lah lecture. Okay, compliant Then hardness. Hardness is the apa benda ni? Pernah dengar? Ataupun first time dengar ni? Muhammad Haziq? Haziq Fahmi? Tak ada? Hardness tu apa? Agak-agak.
Soalan semula doktor.
Ya?
Soalan.
Soalan dia ialah apa itu hardness? Kau first time dengar ke?
Dah dengar je.
Ha?
Pernah dengar.
Pernah dengar, okay. So maksudnya?
Dia sekejap doktor. Dia tahap kekerasan tu.
Tahu? Tahap apa? Ion. Tahap ion dalam air Alah, dia sebenarnya macam ni je. Okay, in water, we are having lots, the water comes from, for example, from the geology kan. Yalah, daripada jenis tanah. It depends on the type of the soil, alright, soil. Some of the water also comes from the certain geological area, certain soil, soil types. So certain soil type, having lots of these cations, like calcium, magnesium, iron, and manganese. Okay, some of the geological site, some public they use groundwater or bore water, air telaga. Dia korek lah macam dekat Kelantan ke Terengganu, kat mana area yang banyak gunakan air telaga kan. So kesan dia ialah when they take this kind of water with the high levels of hardness, which means that the water contains high cations, the water become very hard. Dia tak boleh kerjasama. No compromise, why? Because when you want to clean your clothes, okay, do the washing, they are not effective because high contents of hardness. Pakai sabun tak boleh hilang. And then pasal tak? Siapa orang Kelantan sini? Ataupun siapa kat rumah dia pakai air telaga? Ada? Ahmad Hakim? Apa beza dia? Apa kesan dia? Ada tak macam stain dekat punya toilet tu warna coklat-coklat kuning?
Kalau yang kat rumah tak ada, kalau tandas kat luar tu dia ada.
Kan warna oren kan? Oren punya.
Dia tandas. Kalau tanya orang plumbing dia cakap kena buat filter.
Yes, correct. Okay. Awak duduk kat mana?
Kota Baru.
Okay. Sebab saya pun pernah juga ada saudara saya pergi visit, saya tengok dia punya toilet dia memang ada stain, stain. macam karat-karat itulah. Baru saya tahu dia pakai air telaga lah. So high levels of hardness ni we need to be careful. It's either you install the filter, right? Ataupun kalau tak ada filter pun memang kesannya macam tu lah. Ada stain, kemudian lagi teruk for the industry because ni masalahnya. Dia akan membentuk scaling. Biasa kalau kita, we all semua, if you want to go for tools scaling, kan? PKU, you want to go for scaling. Maksudnya apa? Nak bersihkan gigi. You want to clean your teeth, right? You want to do the scaling. Tapi yang ni, scaling dia ialah dia membentuk dia like this one, scale. Because of the high hardness. Issue in the factory, it can cause lots of maksudnya maintenance cost is very high to remove this one. Kalau piping ni besar-besar, boiler dan sebagainya, very difficult. Because I have one project with the industry, this is their problem. So the water must be really super clean. Even they use the RO water, RO membrane to filter the water, sometimes it doesn't work. So pening kat lah ni. So the water must be really clear with this high hardness. Okay, otherwise we need to treat with the softening process. Nanti saya akan terangkan lah what does it mean by softening process. Adding lime, okay, boiling and so on. Okay, faham tak untuk hardness? Tapi bagus sebenarnya air daripada air daripada telaga ni lah ataupun ni lah air groundwater ni because it contains a high minerals ya. Kita orang Kelantan kuat-kuat kan. Bijak. Sebab dia punya high, the mineral contents from the soil underground is very high and very good lah. Air belai mineral lah maksudnya. Alright. Okay, setakat ni faham for the hardness. So I'm giving you some scenario example so that you can capture. Okay. And relate with your daily life lah macam tu ya. Okay, there are two types of the hardness. One is the carbonate hardness and another one is non-carbonate hardness. Carbonate hardness ni easy, you can remove just by using the boiling or softening. Yang ni sometimes when we have this carbonate hardness, then they have this component, with the hydrogen bicarbonate or carbonate, they can have this magnesium carbonate, calcium carbonate or calcium bicarbonate or magnesium bicarbonate. Ini dia punya interaction lah, jangan risau sangat. Tapi yang ni, non-carbonate ni, very difficult to remove. Ini yang masalahnya berlaku. This is the problem that occurred usually during the water treatment plant even, okay, because might be the water source come from the mining area. It contains lots of the minerals. Susah nak hilangkan ni. Yang ni kena ada extra precaution. They need to do the extra softening process. And then they need to adding the softening soda ash and sodium carbonate, which is quite expensive. So this is basic ya. Maybe one day you are dealing with the water treatment plant how to treat the water. So you must check the hardness level. Even if you are working in the industry, one of the main concern is the hardness. So you must know the process lah about how to soften the hard water. Okay, then this one we can calculate on how we calculate. Usually we use the calcium and magnesium as our dominant compound. Okay. This is the concentration. For example, you want to measure the milligram per liter of calcium carbonate. Why we always refer as a calcium carbonate? Because usually for the hardness, they must have the elements of carbonate. Dengar karbonat ni macam sedap je kan, minuman berkarbonat kan, petang ni boleh cari. Concentration of the, for example, certain cation. Okay, why we got the 50 mg per calcium carbonate? Nanti saya akan terangkan. because you need to calculate the milli equivalent weight. Okay, equivalent weight of the X adalah compound, milligram per milli equivalent weight. Okay, yang ini tak ada apa, sekejap. This is how you classify the hardness level. It's either if below than 50, it's also considered as a soft, medium, 50 to 150, hard, and very hard. So if hard and very hard, that means you need to put some additional what we call a softening process to make it soften, ya. Saya lagi sama ni. Sekali lagi. Yang ni saya akan bagi tutorials. You can try first, and then next week we can do together about how you can find the equivalent weight for each of these following calcium carbonate and calcium carbonate. Okay, because first you need to calculate the equivalent weight. You must know the atomic or molecular weight divide by valence charge. Yang ini dapat mana? From where you can get this? Semua dah sibuk nak terfikir nak makan apa petang ni, kan? From where we can get this atomic or molecular weight? Yes, from the periodic table, ya, Nurul Fatimah. Okay, that's good. Then jadi kita kena kira for calcium 2 sebab apa? Balance, dia punya charge. From the charge, ada atomic weight tu you need to refer to the periodic table. So 40.08 for calcium. Calcium. Sekejap, calcium mana calcium? Kalau ada soalan macam ni, jangan risau, kita akan bagilah. The value of from the periodic table we will give. Okay. Soalan ke apa? Okay, kalsium tadi kan? Mana kalsium? Cari. Ni lah. So 40.08 itu dapat kat sini lah. You can get this 40.08 from here. Ini kalsium mana ni? So kalsium tak nampak lah pula korang Ni dah. Okay, 40.08 nampak? Okay, kita move balik. Mana tadi? Okay. So 40.08 from the periodic table divide by 2. 2 ni datang mana? From where we get these 2?
Calcium got the plus.
Yes, charge dia 2 plus kan. So divide, then you can get this equivalent weight. Yeah, that's good. Then you can get this another example. Alright. And you can calculate some lah to get the equivalent weight. After you get the equivalent weight, then you can calculate the hardness. Okay, like this. Convert the calcium and magnesium to milligram per liter as calcium carbonate. Okay, ni senang. Kejap, 100 tu okay sebab groundwater has 100 right? Okay, yang ini ialah 50 mg per liter as a calcium carbonate. 20 is equivalent weight yang you kira tadi lah, iaitu di periodic table punya value, okay, divide by balance, charge dia. So you can get here. So after that you can calculate and sum up to get the total hardness. Okay. Saya rasa itu sajalah fikir sikit lah. Fikir sikit. Nanti saya akan bagi some exercise. You can try, next week kita akan try sama. But you need to try first. Okay, from the example, another example. it's easy for you to write down like this table. For example, this is given. This one given from the analysis. They're asking you to determine the total hardness sample, but you must convert to milligram per liter S calcium carbonate first, right? Yang ini yang you kena cari from the periodic table, divide by the charge equivalent ion, and this is given. So you can calculate here like a milligram per liter S calcium carbonate, but to get the total hardness, you can get only calcium and magnesium. Yang dua ni lah. 293. Ni dengan ni to get the total hardness 293. Right? And actually you can get also the carbonate hardness by doing like this. Non carbonate hardness, total hardness minus dengan carbonate hardness is 95.37. Usually for the carbonate hardness, we measuring only for this bicarbonate. Yeah, just tu sambil. For this one. Ada tak? Is there any question for this part? Rasa sampai situ sajalah. Nanti saya nak cari kejap tutorial. I can give you some tutorial. Kejap before that, any question?
No, Doctor.
Saya check kejap tutorial. Biasa saya bagilah for this. It's like an exercise. Sekejap ya. Jadi kita nak selesai dah. Okay. Masa next week ada bagi. Sekejap nampak pula ni. Yang inilah contoh So nanti saya akan kemaskinkan. Tak ada perubahan sikit. So I will put in the author, then you can try. This one optional lah. Tapi biasa yang buat tu dia lebih faham So it's a tutorial. So that we can discuss together to make you more understand about the subject, especially on the calculation part. Okay? So I think we can stop for today. And any question before I stop?